What is up, guys? Randomonium here. I want to do something a little bit special, a little bit different than what I normally do. So I was watching the LEC, and there was an amazing game between Misfits and Splyce, and the pick ban phase was especially interesting to me. I know a lot of people don't really understand pick ban phase or don't really fully appreciate it. And I thought this was a great game to kind of break down the pick ban phase and why it's so important, at least at the professional level. I know in solo queue it can be kind of a cluster, but in professional play, pick ban phase is extremely important. And this was kind of a great game to highlight the importance of pick ban phase. If you haven't seen the Misfits Splyce game and you don't want the results spoiled, just pause this video, go watch the game, and come back because I will be discussing the winner and why they won. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you do, let me know, and I'll try to do at least one of these type of videos each week where I break down the pick ban phase and who won and how that set them up for success later on. So going into this, so we can see that. So I'm going to pause it right here. So the bans are first really important. So Misfits bans Rise, Karthus, and Jace. And then Splyce bans Draven, Alistar, and Akali. This opens up the first pick Lucian, because usually if you pick Lucian, like Draven's usually the other pick. Those are like kind of the two lane bullies that are really popular in the professional scene right now. So it was kind of interesting that Splyce banned the Draven but didn't ban the Lucian. It almost seemed like it was a bait, and Misfits wind up taking that, and we'll see with Splyce's picks why it actually, I personally think it was a bait. I can't prove that they tried to bait out this Lucian pick, first pick, but you'll see what happens with the rest of the draft. So they talk about it a little bit, and then they pretty much right about, where is it? They wait till about 8 seconds. They lock in the Braum, and then almost immediately after, Vayne. So it was like they talked about it for like 20 seconds, and they immediately lock in Braum Vayne, and most people were probably like, "What the heck is Splyce doing?" That, you know, they see the Lucian and they immediately lock in Braum Vayne. But at this point, I think that Splyce has a humongous advantage in the draft phase. I'm not saying that they like automatically win, but they have a huge advantage just with these few picks, and I'll explain why. So the reason why they have a huge advantage is because of this diagram that I introduced in my team compositions video. So if we look at the bans, we have Rise, who is, I would say, arguably the best mid lane split pusher in professional play right now. Karthus, who's the best jungler for a siege comp in the meta right now, and also can be good in a split push comp because he can use his Requiem to assist in like a 1v1 duel in the side lanes. And then Jace, who's also a decent split pusher and also a good siege top laner or mid laner or potentially jungler. So you can see it's like split pusher, siege, and also split push. So you can see that all of their bans are focused towards siege and split push. So if we pull up here, we can see in this diagram that, okay, if they're banning out split push champions and they're banning out siege champions, well, those are the two compositions that counter protect compositions. So that means that there's not a lot of champions left that can make a split push composition or a siege composition work, which means that a protect composition is extremely strong. So this is why you instantaneously see that they lock in the Braum and the Vayne pick, because they're going for a protection composition. It's clear as day that they identified that a protection composition is going to hard counter whatever Misfits picks up with the remainder of their draft. The only way that Misfits could potentially even things out is if they pick up the Zoe for like the poking / sieging potential, Yorick in top lane. That's about it. Those are kind of the two real meta picks that they might be able to pick up to potentially swing the draft back into their favor. So if we watch them go through the draft, the next picks that they're going to pick up is, so you see they hover the Fiora because they realize, hey, we need a strong split pusher. But then they wind up locking in Lissandra. So they lock in Lissandra. Not a good split pusher, not a good sieger, more designed for an attack composition. So it looks like they're going more towards the attack composition, which is countered by a protect composition most of the time. This Fiddlesticks is actually a good pick. The Fiddlesticks is a good pick because the Fiddlesticks can have some decent sieging potential with his E, and then they have the potential to dive once they get people low enough. So it's actually a pretty good pickup with the Fiddlesticks in support, and it also helps make sure that Lucian winds up winning his laning phase hard. So Splyce responds, and it's a great pickup. They pick up the Azir. So now they're drafted a double protect comp. So a double DPS carry protect comp. So what I'm expecting is they are going to round out their comp with a jungler and a top laner who are good at being like a beefy front line for disengage and things like that. And at this point, I don't think there's much that Misfits can do. They can draft the Yorick in top lane, but unless the Yorick gets super fed in top lane, basically Misfits has to win early. They've drafted themselves into a position where they have to win the early game. They have to smash it, and they basically have to close out the game by 30 minutes. Because as soon as that 30-minute mark hits and the Vayne and the Azir get multiple items, there's going to be no way for Misfits to get onto that back line reliably and be able to kill the Vayne or the Azir, and they're just going to wreck Misfits' team composition. So if we watch the rest of this play out, it's kind of a formality. I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit. So a little bit further. So you can see they locked in the Yorick, and then they lock in the Camille because they know that they need some way to force fight, some way that, or like early, they can skirmish a lot. The Camille is great, even though she's got nerfed in the jungle because her E no longer stuns monster camps. Another option could be potentially like Xin Zhao in the jungle, somebody who can create plays early, maybe a Lee Sin or something that can create plays. But even here, you can see that they lock in the Aatrox for Splyce, and then their final pick winds up being the Poppy, if I remember correctly. And at this point, it's like, how the heck is Misfits going to get onto the Vayne and the Azir? There's no way. They've got to get through an Aatrox, a Braum, and a Poppy. There's no way. So Splyce automatically wins pretty much every single team fight. And even though they do have the Yorick, who could be good in split pushing, they have no way of poking down the carries. They have no way of winning those 5v5 team fights. So if we're looking at this diagram, basically the Misfits has drafted an attack composition that can split push a little bit, but not that great, unless the Yorick gets super far ahead. And Splyce has drafted a super solid protect composition that will basically counter any hard engage or any catch potential that Misfits has. So at this point, Misfits has to win before 30 minutes. And if they don't win before 30 minutes, they're really screwed. And if you wind up watching the game, you can see that for most of the game, Misfits is doing really, really well. Let me actually go back a little bit further. So Misfits is winning solidly. They've got 4 towers to 1. They've got about a 4K gold lead. But if you wind up, what happens, they wind up they get to around the 30-minute mark, and I think like around the 29-minute mark, and they realize they're losing traction. The fights are getting closer and closer and closer, and Splyce's scaling is coming online, and it's becoming harder and harder to team fight Splyce. So they try to force a play at 29 minutes because they see the Poppy in bot lane, and they wind up getting absolutely destroyed. You can see right here, they're starting the Baron. They see the ward, they come over, and it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. Yep. Yeah, so the Azir cleans up, the Vayne cleans up, nobody can get to them, and it winds up being a Baron for Splyce, and that's the game. And a lot of people were kind of criticizing Misfits for going for the Baron at that point in the game, but they had to. They were running out of time. Their entire team composition was drafted for the early game. Splyce was coming online. They had to go for that Baron play as soon as they saw the Poppy in bot lane to try and force that 5v4. It didn't turn out for them. They waited a little bit too long. I would have preferred if they had tried to force that Baron play at like the 25-minute mark before basically the Vayne of the Azir could fully get online. But they did what they could. They took a shot, they missed, and they wind up losing the game. But this just shows you how important pick ban phase is, especially in the highest echelons of the draft. You have to consider this diagram of compositions, and if you ban out a lot of really good siege champions and really good split push champions, if the enemy team drafts protect, you're really in trouble. So yeah, and I've demonstrated this through a lot of my predictions with the professional scene. I can pick who's going to win with about 75% accuracy, just based off of the pick ban phase alone. So I can go into that more in a future video if you guys like. But yeah, this was a really exciting game for me. I loved watching the pick ban phase and seeing how it played out in the actual game. So I hope this educated you guys a little bit more. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give this a like and let me know what games you think I should cover in the future, or if I should turn this into a regular series. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium signing off.